Amped 1 was a surprise success for the Xbox. It tapped into a different side of snowboarding, and while it wasn't a perfect game, it offered something unique to stand out in a genre that was getting overcrowded. With Amped 1 also joining the Platinum Hits collection, a sequel was likely to happen. However, retreading the first game wasn't going to be enough. The sequel not only needed to improve the game by fixing the problems that were in the original, but it also needed something to stand out more. Fortunately, Microsoft had an ace up their sleeve. But it seems like we need to go back once more. I think you know what's coming next. With Xbox Live being a success for the original Xbox, and for that matter, console online gaming in general in the 2000s, Microsoft was looking for something that could take competitions to the next level. The perfect testing ground for this sort of thing was sports games. With several competing lines, including Sony's 989 Sports line, EA Sports, and Sega's 2K Sports, Microsoft knew they wanted a piece of the action. But with EA not willing to put their games on Xbox Live due to wanting control over how they handled things, Microsoft took matters into their own hands. It started with NFL Fever 2003 being Xbox Live compatible, but that was only just the beginning. AMP 2 was announced back in the spring of 2003 for a winter 2003 release. The game was said to have Xbox Live support, DLC support, improved graphics, and many more improvements. More details came out as E3 2003 approached. A redesigned trick system was also mentioned to be included, and the game would follow a similar setup to the first game. Come E3 2003, not only was AMP 2 showed off, but remember how I mentioned NFL Fever 2003 was just the beginning of what Microsoft wanted to do with online sports games? Well, that was also revealed here.
Beyond the game. Competition. Victory. Respect. This is XSN Sports.
Microsoft announced their own sports game lineup. The brand name was XSN Sports. I'm assuming XSN stood for Xbox Sports Network. Also, XSN, MSN, you get the idea. This wasn't just a brand name like 989 Sports was for Sony. There was a website that allowed you to view leaderboards of scores across the various compatible games, and you could set up / join leagues and compete in tournaments. You could also participate in full seasons. It's kind of like fantasy sports, but you're more in control of it since you can actually play the game. You could even invite people off your friends list to join in. Development went along pretty well, and the game released on schedule. AMP 2 was developed once again by Salt Lake Games Studio and published by Microsoft Game Studios exclusively for the Xbox. The game released on October 28, 2003 for North America and November 14, 2003 for Europe. The Japanese version followed on February 26, 2004 under the name Tenku 2. This makes this the second game to be released in the XSN Sports lineup, with Topspin releasing on the same date. AMP 2 offers some improvements to help flesh out the gameplay from a content and control standpoint, but it still does pack much of the same challenge as the first game. The online functionality, though, does help round out the package by improving the multiplayer, and it creates a solid game that is still difficult, maybe even more than one. Upon starting AMP 2, you will be prompted to create a profile. You can choose your type of boarder, male or female, via several preset options, then enter your name. From there, you are presented with many of the same modes from the first game. Free Ride, once again, will let you run down any unlocked mountain for a high score for both regular and media points. You can ride with either a real professional or your own created characters. There is also a tutorial mode for you to grasp the game's mechanics and feels and how it plays. Multiplayer is back, and many of the same modes return. You can freely ride on the mountains with up to 7 other people. You can mod things for max players, time limits, level rotations, collisions, and you can set it to public or friends only. Session mode allows you to set up various challenges and play some of the multiplayer types from the last game, like high score and best trick. There are 2 new modes here to replace some of the old ones. First is King of the Mountain. Many of the trickable objects will have starts and objects that float over them. and you have to capture them by tricking on or very near the start and meet the minimum trick score threshold. You can capture other players' stars by beating their scores. The most stars at the end of the run wins. Then there's Trick Race. You race down the mountain, but there's a twist. Certain features of your course selected are marked with colored circles. Start your trick here and earn the minimum score. If you miss or don't beat the minimum score, you get frozen for a few moments before continuing. First one down wins. You can also use modifiers for time limit, time penalties for how many seconds deducted for missing a circle and trick attack, board type, score modifiers, point threshold, and crash penalties. Some modifiers are only available for certain types of game modes. Once again, the main mode of the game is Career Mode. It pretty much plays similarly to the first game. You start off at rank 250 and your goal is to climb to number 1. You'll do this by accomplishing challenges. Many of the same types of challenges from the first game return. You've got High Score, Media Score, and Sponsor. They all work the same way as they did in Amped 1. High Score has you go for the best score throughout. Media Score will have you trick in specific spots where photographers are eager to get your shot, and keep the sponsors amped by doing the special trick types they like the most. Pro challenges also return, but they have been reworked somewhat. As you follow the line they set, you'll notice trick circles. These indicate where you start a trick. Green is easy, blue is normal, yellow is hard, and red is very hard. If you miss 3 tricks or the last at the end of the run, you have to start over. You'll get used to these circles thanks to the main new challenge here, Photo Shoot. How it works is there is a specific line to follow marked by circles. As you move through the circle, you'll get a chance to trick. Stay within the line and land the trick, and you'll get the score necessary to beat the challenge. There are also 3 tiers like the other challenges, and they each get harder as you go on. There are smaller challenges for things like tricks, hitting a specific grab, trick score, etc., and finding gaps, look for colored arcs, and snowmen, returning from the last game. There are also events in which you will compete against other riders for the best score, racing down the mountain before time runs out. Get first by the end of 3 runs. Once you get to number 1, there are the Legend Challenges. These are for the hardest of the hardcore players who want the ultimate challenge. Each mountain has one and they will really test you. But to be honest, you're still going to get tested quite a bit throughout the game because the way the game feels is still on the realistic side. Something I didn't really break down is how this affects the gameplay in the last review, so I'll talk a bit about it here. The way it feels is very different from SSX. SSX, is quicker, easier to pull off tricks. You can go really fast without worrying about momentum being over or under, and I'm pretty much just describing the differences between an arcade and more realistic snowboarding game. I think it's really mostly affected in the trick system. SSX allows you to pull off all these crazy flips and spins and go from one grab to another. You can't really do that here. What you see in real life when the pros pull off tricks is pretty much how you would pull them off here. But there's this weird clash because as you keep going throughout the game, the score thresholds get higher. Yes, you get better stats, but those are only going to get you so far. This makes every mistake you make that much more frustrating. If you make one too many, you have to start over, and you may need multiple tries. It's even more frustrating for media points since those spots are more limited. On the whole, it's still tough as the first game, maybe even a bit tougher. At least the controls are still solid. They're mostly the same as the first game, but there have been a few changes. For starters, there are a couple new mechanics here. First are the lip tricks. When going up into a half pipe, press Y and a direction on the left analog stick to do a lip trick. You use the left analog stick to balance and hop off when you're done. These pretty much work like they do in the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series. I would say more like 3 than 4 and on. The other new addition is butter. This is just another way for saying manuals. Flick up and down on the left analog stick to do a nose press butter and vice versa for a tail press butter. You can use these to link tricks. The other thing is that you now use L and R to balance grinds as opposed to the right analog stick. The only other big addition to the controls involves the other new thing I forgot to mention earlier, so I'm mentioning it now. Snow skate. There are certain challenges that require you to ride a skateboard attached to a snowboard. These pretty much function the same way as the main sections, with one exception: the addition of kick tricks, flip tricks in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater terms. When in the air, press X and push the left analog stick in a specific direction. Beyond that, jibs and lips work as the same as before, and the controls are pretty good on the whole here. That's about everything I can say without repeating myself so much as I can help it. The graphics here are pretty damn good. If Amped 1 was a good showcase for the Xbox launch, then Amped 2 further shows how Salt Lake Games Studio came between the first game and this one. In particular, the mounts have been completely reworked. They're now full-on 3D panoramas. It's like someone built actual models of them and scanned them in with immense details. A lot of the process of recreating these mounds was actually similar to how the cities in Metropolis Street Racer were done. That's not the only thing that's been improved. Environments in general are much bigger and have a lot more going on in them in the background. The draw distance is also farther out than in the original game, something not seen in console games very much at this time. Not to mention, the snow looks so much better. It looks more natural and how it would in real life. The lighting also has improved and better matches the atmosphere of the mountain you are on at any given time. On top of that, there are other cool effects introduced here. Real-time clouds to make the sky look more natural and fluffy, snow spray to coat any rider that should pass under it, and weather itself also looks good, and the snow trails look more different between the courses from the thicker to lighter powder. Speaking of riders, they also look much better than the last game. Certain effects like bump mapping on the clothing, which does make the clothes look wrinkled, makes things look more realistic, and shadows look so much better for the riders thanks to the lighting improvements. A good number of polygons that are used efficiently help the riders look sharper, and there are a lot more customization options to make your riders stand out more than in the first game. However, with more intense graphics, the game now only runs at 30 frames per second, as opposed to 60 FPS seen in the first game. Still, the frame rate manages to stay stable throughout, and if you can run the game in 720p, which it supports, it looks even better. On the whole, Amped 2 holds its own graphically, and I still think it's one of the best looking Xbox games some 20 odd years later. The sound design is also pretty good, like in the first. The sound effect design has been slightly improved, but you might not fully notice it unless you're either paying close attention or you're playing this with your Xbox hooked up to a home theater system. It does have Dolby support after all. I feel like a lot of what I said in the first game's review applies here. Snowboarding sound as they should. There is some background activity to enhance the area. Environmental sounds match, and the sound effect design is slightly better than the first. The soundtrack pretty much follows the same ideas as the original game, and even to the point of reusing many songs from it, like many of the Yellow Card songs. Once again, I can't say much here without repeating what I said in the last review. Heck, we can all say the same about the voice acting. It all boils down to background voices of the photographers you find, and I think you know where this is going. Though I will say earlier, in regards to the soundtrack, again, custom soundtracks return. Thanks to the online multiplayer still being active since Insignia brought the servers back, there's quite a bit of post-game content to play around with, not counting the already big single-player, but there is a downside to all this. Remember all that XSN stuff I mentioned, which here allowed you to create or join a pack and participate in / create events? Well, none of that is implemented here. While Insignia has it in the pipeline to restore XSN functionality to titles that had them, that is a big undertaking, and there are still other games that need online restored. Plus, only 2 XSN titles are playable online as of writing this. This, and Rally Sport Challenge 2. But when this is back, it will bring the game fully back to what it was. Amped 2 does improve on the original in a few different ways. It looks better than the original thanks to strong graphical effects, even if the game runs at 30 frames per second. It does improve the controls by simplifying things to a certain degree. It has deeper customization system for riders, and there's a lot more to the multiplayer thanks to the addition of online play. And the people who love the first will really love this. However, the missing XSN functionality, even if it's understandable why it's missing, kind of sucks. Some of the new additions like Snowskate feel tacked on and not that much different from the main game, and the difficulty issues from the first game haven't really been fixed, and it may even be worse. To be honest, I think there's more fun to be had within multiplayer mode since you can just freely ride and figure it out with your friends and other players. Considering you can get this game pretty cheap, I think it's worth it if you love the first, or you're looking for a good snowboarding game to play online. This is actually the only Xbox snowboarding game to be playable online. Yeah, I know. Oh well. I give AMP2 a 4 out of 5. And really, if this multiplayer was still inactive, I would probably just knock it down to the same rating as the first game, but oh well. I'll save AMP3 for next year, because I've never actually played that one, and I still need to own it, actually. Yeah. Before I do the sign-off proper, and this last part is actually unscripted here, I just want to say thank you to those of you who have been watching me for however long you have. Whether you just joined this year, joined in any of the other past years I've been doing this, or God forbid you were with me through my experimental phase. I will always be grateful no matter how you support, and I just wanted to say thanks. This has been kind of a tough year for me mentally, but this also has allowed me to tap into as well a lot of other games here that I don't know if I would review any other year, but reviewing them in the 10-year anniversary does make them more special. I didn't mention it in the main review, but this was another one of the many games I rented from Blockbuster back in the day, so I do have fond memories of playing AMP2 and the heyday of the Xbox, or close to it at least. Maybe a little after if you give or take. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you all still for watching. Every time I say it here, I can't say it enough, and there's probably only so many ways I can say it, so I'll just say it one last time, and then we'll do the usual holiday sign-off. Thank you. And I know what you're thinking. Film's been over for, what, 6 years? Why would you still do the other bit here? Why stop now? So, yeah, Merry Christmas, Happy Festivus, Happy Hanukkah, Happy whatever the hell you celebrate. Happy Heartswarming Eve Day, whatever, to my favorite film ship. I will see you all in 2026. I'll just see you then. Thanks for watching. Click subscribe below and check out the playlist on screen for more content. To help support the show beyond the usual means, check out my Patreon and Ko-fi on the link tree in the description. And come by my Twitch where I conquer my backlog one game at a time. See you in the next video.